Hello, I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine and welcome to Inner Voice Show. On this episode, we're going to talk about relationship, finances, and a whole lot more. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine. I'm a psychotherapist. I'm an author and an international speaker. I have hosted my own television show, Inner Voice, in a satellite program for 16 years. Whether it's premarital counseling or through their marriage, how to deal with children, and if they're going through a divorce, to teach them how to communicate better together. In actuality, I think my job is very important to work with individuals and the couples in order to make the most important relationship of their life healthy, which makes them healthy. On my Inner Voice show, I actually interview some of the prominent psychologists and entertainers in English, and I also speak to some of the psychotherapists who are Iranians and the artists who are Iranians, and I speak in Persian to the Persian population around the world, from Iran or Europe or Japan, Australia, all over the United States and Canada, because obviously I was born in Iran.
Where's Dr. Zeine? Dr. Zeine?
Hello.
You also have been trained in my specific methodology and techniques, correct?
Yes.
Are you willing to talk to her after this show?
Absolutely.
And tell her the step-by-step that she needs to do to deal with what I believe is an addictive personality?
Yes, absolutely. The family goes through a lot. For boys who are becoming girls, the fathers of the family suffer. They will keep being confused. They look at all the childhood pictures that they've took of their son, and now they look at somebody who's standing in front of them and supposed to be their daughter. Coming up, I'm going to be talking to a psychotherapist about awareness integration model. You really want to know what that is, huh? Coming up. Stay tuned. Hi. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, psychotherapist, and I'm here with Nasreen Bafordari, licensed marriage and family therapist. We're going to talk about awareness integration model, a psychological model that I have originated, and Nasreen Bafordari is one of the first therapists who has actually learned and has been utilizing it with her clients. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting me. This is an honor.
Some of the major topics that I actually talk to my clients who are couples are first talking about sexuality. Many people don't know how to talk about sex. Concept of communication about it is something that I actually have to teach the couples and how to do. We talk about sexuality. Many people come into their sexuality in a very automatic way. We can go through the whole experience and wham, have a great time, but being with another human being, it actually takes skills. So becoming aware of every area of how we think, how we behave, how we feel, how we communicate with another human being in order to have an amazing sexuality is part of what we also teach in this AI model.
So much of our sexuality.
People don't talk about finances a lot. They don't have a system. They come from two backgrounds of how they actually have created their finances, and I have to help them create a system and have a great communication in how to follow the system. Another main topic is when they actually have children. Now remember, two people, two backgrounds, two cultures, two sets of values are coming in, and now they actually have to bring those together, and that's where they need how to communicate, be flexible, and really negotiate on one way of handling their kids. Duet, sometimes you guys are entering each other's space and singing together, and then solo. How does that experience for you?
The funny thing is,
in-laws, we have to deal with them. They're always there. They're going to be there. We didn't marry them, but they came with the package. So somehow we have to really, really work with it. And if I have to actually add one more topic that I've had to deal with a lot of couples and individuals is addiction. Whether it's an addiction to alcohol or drugs, pornography, cell phone, computers is one aspect that really, really affects the person's life and in their relationship. With people who are going through recovery from addiction, they've had some sort of a trauma in their childhood. And when we've worked with the awareness integration model with them, clearing the trauma, the choice and the chance for them to relapsing is really minimized. I have been in the field of psychology for about 25 years. I started with seminars in ontology and psychology almost the same time. And I know you were part of the pilot study that we did, and in the result of that pilot study was that people were actually minimizing the depression 76%. They were minimizing anxiety 64%, and their self-esteem was rising about 43%. Now those are astonishing numbers.
You know, I wanted to go through it. I wanted to experience what my client would experience. So I asked you to work on me as a model for the group that was being trained.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you like what you see, you can see more on my website and my YouTube channel. And if you want to contact me, I'm on Facebook and Twitter. Bye-bye. Hello and welcome to Inner Voice Show. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, and thank you for being with us for another week. As you know, this show is about you and all that matters in your life from a psychological perspective. And I am honored to have masters in psychotherapy and psychology, in the field of psychology, to be with me on this show. And today, especially, I'm excited for Dr. Jeffery Zeig to accept my invitation for the second time to be on the show. If you also like to see our interview, the previous interview, please go to my YouTube channel, and you can also watch the previous show that we've had together. Let me tell you a little bit about him. Dr. Jeffery Zeig is the founder and director of the Milton H. Erickson Foundation. He has edited, co-edited, and co-authored more than 20 books on psychotherapy that appears in 12 foreign languages. Dr. Zeig is the architect of the evolution of psychotherapy conferences, the brief therapy conferences, the couples conferences, the international congresses on Ericksonian approaches to hypnosis and psychotherapy. He's a psychologist and a marriage and family therapist. He has a private practice in Phoenix, Arizona. Now, Dr. Zeig conducts workshops internationally in more than 40 countries, and he's the president of Zeig, Tucker, and Thyssen Publishers in the behavioral sciences. I am so excited to have you with me, Dr. Zeig. Welcome.
Oh, so nice to be here with you again, and thank you so much for inviting me. But when I listen to that daunting list that you rattled off, I get tired. I can't believe that I've done all of those things.
Actually, I have to add one more thing to it, and it's one of the most loving human beings that I've ever met. I really sincerely say that to you, because every time, and I've been a participant in your conferences, I've been a lecturer in your conferences, and, you know, we have these conferences, something more than, 12, 13,000 people are there. They're all professionals in the mental health field. And what you really get is just your love, dedication, and authentic sincerity about the way you care for not only clients and patients and the field itself and everyone. I mean, just to bring, it was so inspirational to me the first time that I ever came to the conference where you had created all the masters, everyone who had created theories in this field and brought them and bring them almost every 3 years together. And it's very inspirational. So thank you for that.
It takes one to know one. You're a very inspiring and loving person yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Zeig. Now, today we're going to actually talk about communication and the process of communication. So tell me, how do you see this process, and how do you work with your clients in this path?
Yes. Well, if we think about communication, we could actually reference music as a metaphor. Now, if you do simple music, a simple tune, it's very pleasant and people enjoy it, and that's great. Now, if you really want people to feel the emotional impact of that tune, then you're going to add things that make the communication more dense. And so then you will add grace notes, or you will add slides, or you'll double a note, or you'll add more instruments, or you'll do theme and variation. For example, Beethoven took 2 notes, 4 tones, and made them into the Fifth Symphony. And the symphony is basically theme and variation. It's ways of taking those 2 tones, 4 notes, and changing them, modifying them, changing the tone, the tempo, the rhythm, adding instruments, and making a symphony come alive out of those simple notes. So now, music takes communication, takes language into a place that language can only aspire. So if we think about some of the things that a composer would do, can we bring them into our communication when we want to make our communication more emotionally powerful? Now, music is about emotion. Science is about facts. It's about the objective world. Art is about the subjective world. And if we want to communicate facts, if you want to know the formula for figuring out the hypotenuse of a right triangle, then c squared equals a squared plus b squared, and you don't need to do anything else other than communicate that formula, and you communicate in a very algorithmic way, people get the information and they leave happy because the purpose of the communication was to transmit information. Now, let's say that you're talking to your partner, your son, your friend, and you want them to feel something emotional. You want them to feel loved, respected, appreciated. Now, if you do c squared equals a squared plus b squared, that may work to some extent, giving them information. You're wonderful because A, B, C, D. But if you really want them to feel the impact of your love, if you want them to feel respect, if you want them to feel appreciated, then you're going to use a technique that is more similar to music than it is to algorithmic science. An algorithm is a series of steps that get you to a concrete outcome. If you're opening up a safe and you use every single combination, eventually the safe will open. That's an algorithm. But there are other processes. These are called heuristic processes. They are simplifying assumptions. Maybe they will work and maybe not. So you have a way of offering something, a way of communicating something, a way of saying something so that it has emotional impact.
So if I come to you, you as a client, and I'm letting you know that every time I talk to my husband or mate, it seems like we get into a fight, and I don't know how to communicate in a way that I can bring my points out without creating a fight right after that. So, Dr. Zeig, how could you help me?
Well, let's start from a negative perspective, and we'll take that in 2 ways. Most communication is SAD-JAN, S-A-D-J-A-N. SAD, S-A-D, sullen silence, attack, and deceit. JAN, judgment, advice, and negativity. So most communication is SAD-JAN, sullen silence, attack, deceit, judgment, advice, and negativity. So those are things to avoid when you want the communication to be about connection. Now, there are other communication pitfalls, like can't, always, never, if only, you should, what if, and if he, she, they would just. These are communication pitfalls. So if you're going to start to communicate with your partner, and you're going to say, you always leave the kitchen drawers open.
Mm-hmm.
You never get places on time. You can't do anything right. You should pay more attention to me. Yes, I understand, but, and if he, she, they would just be more sensible and more sensitive, or if you use words like maybe we should get closer. Well, maybe, yes. Well, maybe you shouldn't get closer. Well, yes, that's true too. So anything that you preface with a maybe is going to be true, and it's not going to lead to what you want. So a first thing to do in a positive direction is to provide a frame. The frame provides a context in which the communication can be understood. And the frame has to be clarified first in your mind. What's the purpose of the communication? The purpose of the communication is to get close. If the purpose of the communication is to get close, then openly or covertly, you can communicate. The purpose of the communication is to get close. Now, if I communicate that by softening my voice, by smiling, using a soft focus, and feeling as if I'm hugging you with my words, I am implicitly communicating a frame. Or if I explicitly communicate the frame, I say, well, I'd like to take this time and get close. And it, depending on the context, one route can be better than the other, overtly communicating the frame or implicitly communicating the frame.
So the music,
one of
the concept of music that you were saying and referring to, when it comes to your example from that perspective, it would be that if I wanted to talk to my husband in a way that he would understand me and he would feel close to me, and at the end he would feel the love and affection, although I might still want us to have a point, is to give that emotion that I'm intending to create and intending to receive, to bring that emotion inside of me and bring it out in my tonality so that that essence of it is being given, while I'm also, with my words, let them know that I really want to be close. So although I'm going to talk about something I don't like, but the purpose of it is clarity and bringing us to some sort of a closeness. So it's the tonality and the words that I use in order to create the frame of how I'm, the purpose and what is it that I want to create at the end of our conversation. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, what you're saying is great. What you want to do is to clarify in your mind the outcome. Before you start, you know your outcome. And it's as if you are decorating yourself, clothing yourself, adorning yourself in the outcome that you want to have before you start. So you've set your intention. And even before you create the frame, explicitly or implicitly, you know your intention. If your intention is to be nuclear and bomb your partner, then that's your intention, and probably you have the technology to do it. Okay, I'll scorch the earth right now, and I will be justified in doing it because I'm a victim.
It's such a great thing that you're saying, because I know that with a lot of the couples who also come to me, they say, I want to communicate, and yet they have this other, let's say, intentionality or this way of being as if they already know what the end is going to look like, as if in their head they're saying, it doesn't matter. Even if I'm going to say this, he's never going to change. She's never going to do that. And that type of intentionality also comes through the tonality and the way we speak and the kind of like the powerlessness and the hopelessness about this conversation. So even though people might say that they have another intention, if they have a different agenda, that still comes through. So what you were saying is also when you're clear about what it is that you want at the end and set the tone that way, rather than if somehow in my essence I'm that hopeless about the conversation, somehow that hopelessness also gets transferred, and then somehow I create the hopelessness again out of that communication, right?
Yes, it will be a self-fulfilling prophecy. The prophecy of the future will become the future in prophecy. So yes. So now, one pitfall, and I'm quoting from some of the work of my colleagues Ellen Bader and Peter Pearson, being the justified victim. This is a very easy role to slip into. Let me play it out for you. So I say to my partner, let's meet, let's have dinner together. We haven't spent time together. We want to get close. Let's meet 6 o'clock. We'll go to XYZ restaurant and we'll have a great time. 6 o'clock, I'm there. I'm waiting. 6:05, my partner doesn't show up. 6:10, I'm drumming my fingers on the table. 6:15, I'm remembering every time that she was late. 6:20, I remember every offense that she ever committed against me. 6:25, I remember every offense anyone has ever committed. 6:30, she walks in and she says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm late, yada, da, 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 da." And I go, "How could you do that? That was so insensitive." Now, how's the dinner going to go? Terrible.
Yes.
What was the purpose? Get close. But I'm a justified victim, and I'm expressing my outrage because I'm justified.
Right.
Okay, now let's play it again. Now I don't want to be a justified victim. I want to keep the frame in mind. I want to get close. I want this to be a nice time, a good time for us. 6:05, I'm starting to fidget. 6:10, I'm drumming my fingers on the table. I think, oh, I never get to read the newspaper. Maybe I'll have a glass of wine. Maybe I will just, relax for a little while, do some email. And 6:30, my partner comes in and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm late, yada, da, 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 da." And I say, "Peter, please next time text me because I was worried about you." Mm-hmm. Because I have my frame in mind. I know the outcome that I want, and my behavior is consonant with the outcome that I want. And I stay out of being a justified victim. So setting the frame can be something that can be very valuable as long as you can remember what it is that you want to have happen by virtue of that interaction.
So when we're setting up the frame in a way that I will let you know what my intention is, what type of communication I want to have with you, and it's such an important concept for us to know, because I think that when we're so used to the configuration that you were talking about, being angry at the person or being judgmental or just venting off. We wait until we vent off these matters, that we're not necessarily looking at it as a process and a system that we can be effective at it. We just communicate like emotionally rather than utilizing, as you said, as a transferring of information, and how can I be effective in this transferring of information. So after setting up the frame and after being able to say, okay, my intention is to be closer to you, there's some things that are bothering me and I really want to share them with you, now what do I do in communication so that I can state my complaint in a way that you can hear me and we can negotiate on this, and obviously I wanted my way at the end, so how can I tell you that this is very important for me and for you to change the behavior that you've been doing?
Yeah, great question. So one thing is coming from the work of Harville Hendricks, make an appointment. Is this a good time to talk? And coming from the work of John Gottman, a soft boot. When we have a computer, you don't want to jam those delicate circuits with massive charges of electricity. So a soft boot is starting slowly in the communication. I'm troubled by something. I want to talk with you about it. And is this a good time? So make an appointment, do a soft boot, and make sure that you keep down the level of arousal. So let's say this is the model of a brain. Spinal cord, cerebellum, limbic system, the accelerator of the brain, and the prefrontal cortex, the gray matter. When people are upset, it's as if they're disconnected. And Broca's area, their speech center, is offline, and their limbic system is charging, which is fight, flight, freeze, and they can't digest the communication. So the communication is going to happen best in an environment where the arousal is relatively modulated, especially if you're talking about problems. So you would stay cognizant of the level of arousal of your partner, and rather than pressing your point, you would want to know that your partner was dealing with an intact brain before you went and talked about something that was really important to you. Now, of course, if you phrase things as a criticism, you never, you always, you should, then your chance of getting your message across is not as good. And if your communication is solution focused, I really like it when you close the kitchen drawers after you take out the silverware. It really means a lot to me. And also, if you're inventive, if you're playful. Like I remember one woman who wanted to have her husband put the toilet seat down after he used the toilet, and he was kind of male and wasn't doing it. So what she did was she took lipstick and flipped open the toilet seat and put "I love you" on the inside of the toilet seat in lipstick. Now, this is it's a metaphoric way of getting across the message. And rather than sitting down and batting this out, and you have to know how important this is to me, she created a little game, a little metaphor that served as a loving reminder. It was positive. And then he could get it, he could understand, and he could respond in a way that was constructive without having any struggle.
I think what I got from you is amazing. It's like, we go and we have mates because we want to play. I mean, we pretty much want playmates. And we go into relationships for the essence of the companionship, which gives us joy. And then many times in the communication, we act as if we're in a battle and somebody's got to win. And of course, it has to be me that is going to have to win. And we act upon that that form of the relationship from the place of the tug of war, and so I'm going to even have the language of dominance, and it has to be my way, and controlling, and negating, and all of that. And then what I was getting from you is like within that concept of coming back and playing, that every form of the communication can turn into play and fun. Although it's serious, it doesn't mean that it's not serious need or serious conversation that needs to be happening, but not forget that overall it's all in the context of fun and play, and not for it to go into a context of a battle.
Right. Yes. So, and you're striking on something that's really important. Here is an eclipse, right? Now it's suddenly tick, 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 tick. I'm eclipsed. I can't see you. Now that's blocking out the sun. So here is being effective, and tick, 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 here is being right. So suddenly I am so preoccupied with being right that I'm eclipsed, and I lose being effective. what does it take to be effective? So a good argument is, this problem is 60% my fault. And your partner says, oh, absolutely not. This problem is 60% my fault. And that adds up to a very nice 120%. And it's better to argue about who is going to assume more fault than it is trying to ineffectively pin the other person down because you have to be right. What does it take to be effective? What serves the greater good? The greater good could be served by being effective rather than being right.
And what I also can see with that is that when I say that I'm responsible for 60% of this, then I'm also sensing that I can be powerful enough to choose to shift what I think that might be my responsibility and how to get effective. However, if I'm saying that you're at fault, I also sense the powerlessness in that mode because there's no way that I can, control you or have you do it my way, where I can definitely be in control of myself and look at what other ways I can create the result that I want. And as I hear you, if each person really go into a place of taking that responsibility and accountability, then it will be effective because then they are powerful and looking at the elements that they brought into this conversation or this result. And they can shift that conversation by shifting some of the tonality, some of the context, some of the content, something within that to create a different result.
Right. Excellent. Let's play a little game. Okay? So you're going to start, and you're going to say, I'm here. And I'm going to respond, yes, but. And you're going to respond, yes, but, to my yes, but. And I'm going to respond, yes, but, to your yes, but. So you start, we're here.
Okay.
Say the sentence to me, we're here.
We're here.
Yeah, but what good is that? You do, yeah, but.
Yeah, but where else can we be? This is the only place we could be.
Yeah, but we can find so many different places to be, and we can find so many different things to do.
Yeah, but it's never been fun wherever else we've gone.
Yeah, but, why should fun be so important anyway?
Yeah,
okay, now let's stop.
Okay.
Where is this communication going?
Nowhere.
Exactly. So
getting both of us very frustrated and disconnected to each other. That's where it's going.
Exactly. So now let's change the frame, and we're going to do yeah and. So you start.
We're here.
We're here. Yeah, and we can get to know each other better. Yeah, and.
Yeah, and it's a really great ambiance to be in this restaurant.
Yeah, and we can learn things from each other.
Yeah, and we can actually extend the conversation as much as we want and do whatever we want.
Yeah, and we can grow and learn and be better friends by virtue of this conversation. Now stop. This communication is going up.
Yes, and expansive. It's like bringing us together and expanding us both.
Exactly. Now that is so simple. And when you examine how we have been communicating over the course of this interview, we have been doing yeah and conversation. When I say something, you're saying yeah and. When you say something, I'm saying yeah and. And without thinking about it, both being good communicators, we've been doing this. Now we've been modeling it in this role play between us, but that's a good pattern to remember. And when you study improvisation to people who are doing improv in a theater, yeah and is the basic pattern. You never want to stick the person with a line that the person can't build on. So yeah and communication is VAC, value added communication. And if we focus on value added communication, yeah and, then things have a much more positive valence, a much more positive direction, a much more powerful emotional impact. Okay, now.
Definitely. Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
What I was thinking as you were talking about this is that, it really takes a developed person and someone who has some sense of regulating their own emotion and learning about themselves and knowing themselves and knowing what it is they want. We're all very complex and have duality inside of us. And in order to have some type of a communication that is effective, since that communication starts from us, it seems like I have to consistently also work on myself to get to know who I am, what I want, how can I calm myself when I'm triggered in order to be talking to my partner or anyone in a way that it doesn't trigger them. So if I'm triggered, I got to learn how to calm myself down before I can trigger somebody else, or choose not to trigger them and communicate in a different way. And I know that you also talk about how to develop someone in a way that they can be a better person for themselves and others. Can we talk about that a bit?
Sure. I also want to riff on what you were just saying, that health can be defined as the ability to recover quickly. And health is not staying absent of illness. Everybody gets a cold, everybody puts their foot in their mouth. So health is the ability to recover quickly. What you're saying about affect regulation, that when you are in that state, it's much easier to be able to communicate than if you are in that disconnected, fighting, taking flight, freezing state. So bringing affect regulation into play is really important, and we all get out of alignment, right? So nice recovery, nice recovery. How quickly can we get back to a state of equilibrium that will allow the communication to continue? And this is the ability to repair. So even though you have a goal in mind, your ability to repair quickly, because, for all of my expertise, more than 40 years of being a therapist, I still say some pretty stupid things sometimes. I still do some pretty stupid things sometimes. It's the ability to recover quickly that is an indicator of health, the ability to maintain your resonance, the ability to maintain affect regulation. Now, what was I just doing? And you've heard me do this a number of times throughout our interview. What I was doing is I was speaking in a set of triplicates. Because when you want to have emotional impact, 3 is a very magic number.
Oh.
And saying things 3 times is what good speakers do. So you're asking about a system that I've developed called psychoaerobics. And this system is based on modeling. Modeling is, okay, you look around the world, you find something excellent, you move it closer, you chunk it down into components, you practice those components until you improve your excellence. So let's watch musicians, or let's watch a good public speaker. Let's watch Bill Clinton, Obama, excellent public speakers. Forget about the content for a minute, just watch the style of how they communicate. You don't have to agree with the content, watch style. So let's say that Clinton is talking about the economy, and he says there are fiscal responsibilities, there are economic principles, there are things that guide our recovery on a financial basis. Now, I've just said the same thing 3 times. It sounds more enticing because I've used recursions. I haven't used repetition. And recursions are theme and variation. You say the theme, but you modify it slightly. over the course of our talking, I have been practicing using theme and variation, triads of recursions when I want to make a point that I think will have emotional impact. Now, you can find the same principle in Beethoven. You could find the same principle in movies. You could find the same principle in public speakers. And part of the art of helping yourself to be a better person would be modeling, find excellence, bring it closer, chunk it into components that you can try on. And then in your working memory, practicing them until they slip into your procedural memory, and it's just like putting on your shoes. You don't have to think about it. At one time, you had to think about how to put on your shoes, and then quickly it moved from working memory into procedural memory, and it's something that you just do. So I've done recursive triads so much because I've watched and modeled excellent speakers that when I want to have emotional impact, when I want my point to reach the human heart, when I want somebody to realize a concept, that's when I use recursive triplicates. And that's something that's easy to learn.
And that's something that you use the same concept, but in three, not repeating the same sentence 3 times, but you take what the concept is and you say it in a different way 3 times so that it lands for them in different levels. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
2 is too little and 4 is too much.
Okay.
I don't know why 3 turns out to be a magic number.
Fantastic. Now that's still in the part of the communicating and being effective on that level where I know what I want and I will say it in 3 different ways so that the person grasps it and lands on their heart and their wisdom and picking it up. The other part that I was also hearing from you is if I want to be an effective communicator, then I need to look at some role models out there that I consider effective and they have the results that they are effective, and I can begin watching them, looking at what they do, breaking the components of it, and then begin to practice what they do and that is excellent. And that's the way I make myself develop and be better, whether it's a task, whether it has to do with my career, whether it has to do with my communication, it has to do with principles and values of me being a better human being, a better giving person. So whatever it is that I think that I want to excel in, we take the concept of modeling, which we all know from childhood, that's all we do. We model the world and then it's repeating it to make ourselves to be excellent in it. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Yes, perfect. Very well said. And but what I have been doing is that I've been modeling art. And I have a website, emotional-impact.com. And I thought, okay, who are the people who understand how to have emotional impact? Well, the people who understand emotional impact are not scientists, they're artists. So actors understand how to have emotional impact, composers, painters, choreographers, architects, they know how to have emotional impact. So I decided if I wanted to learn how to have emotional impact, I would get a film crew and I would start interviewing people and I would try to model how they think when they want to create emotional impact. And so most of my models come from artists. Let's say another triplicate that's easy for people to use, easy for people to practice, easy for people to see the effectiveness would be a 3-step process. If you were thinking about tennis, the setup, the intervention, and the follow-through. And the 3-step process is a clean entrance, a presentation, and a clean exit. Another way of thinking about that is set up, intervene, follow through. Pre-suggest, suggest, post-suggest. When you go to the movies, you see this process countless times. For example, you see an airplane. You have a fraction of a second of seeing the airplane. The next moment, you're inside the airplane. And then you have voices or music that are trailing you into the next scene. So movie makers know that sequential triplicates, a clean entrance, the establishing shot, then the next shot, the action shot, is followed by a trailing shot that takes you out of one scene into the next. Well, this has been used not just by visual artists, directors, this is used by musicians, this is used by all kinds of people where the art is temporal. And if we see that, and we have seen it, we've seen that process thousands of times in the movies, but it's seamless. We never recognize that the director and the editor are thinking establishing shot, action shot, and clean exit. But this is what they do, and some of them don't even have to think about it anymore. This is just what they do. So if you, let's say that you're a physician, and you're giving somebody a prescription, and you know that this person was a musician. Now, we know that just because you give somebody a prescription doesn't mean they're going to take it. And the people who have prescriptions for blood pressure medicine or diabetes, there's a lots of people who don't take the prescription. Well, is that their fault, or is that the way in which the message is presented? So let's say the person was a musician. You used to play the piano, and you practiced when you were a child, and it was important for you to be regular, and it was important for you to be diligent, and then you got the results that you wanted. Here's your prescription. This is a great medicine. I'm familiar with it. It acts quickly. It's going to get you where you want to be. And then they did a three-step process of set up, intervene, follow through, or pace and suggest and motivate. Those are variations on that three-step process. Well, it's the same thing if you're talking with your partner about something that's really important. We're here together, there's things that we can accomplish, there's things that we can do. Mm-hmm. There's something that I really want you to know that's important to me. I think you're going to want to hear it. I think it's going to help us. I think it's going to get us to a better place. Is this a good time to talk?
Right.
Now, suddenly you're doing the same thing that Steven Spielberg would do, and you're applying it in everyday life. And then once you get the concept of recursive triplicates or sequential triplicates, then your job is, okay, I'll practice this, I'll practice this, I'll practice this, until it becomes automatic, and then it's yours, and you don't have to think about it again.
Wow. It's as if the whole movie's coming together. And I've watched you in some of the conferences, and I've read your book that you have interviewed a great director, and I've watched actually what you just said in one of the conferences, and you brought this whole this hour together into such a beautiful connection of different aspects. And as it was landing on me, this is what I was getting, that as we begin a conversation, we want to have a clean entrance, and that clean entrance comes in the way that we already have that clarity in us in what the intention of this conversation is. And if the conversation for us has the intentionality of clarity and connectedness and bringing our relationship into a better place, then I want to bring that in my tonality and my conversation, and the respect that I have from the other person, asking them if they're ready and if they could give me a little bit of a time so we could talk. So it's a clean entrance. And then you want to bring the actual subject, which in as you said, if I want to have an emotional impact for someone, I will bring the content of what I want to say, the subject of what I want to say, and I put it in 3 different ways. So I bring it in triplicate where the point is the same. and I do it, I say it in 3 ways. And the words that I choose, I'm not going to choose words that might trigger the other person, such as always, never, should, and all of those. And I would put it into the words that are respectful and states what the issue is and how I want it to impact. And then I also respectfully do a clean exit, which is appreciating them and being grateful for the time that they're listening and what they're doing for us. And this is what I hear is like, you're going to come in clean, you're going to present clean with a high level of emotional impact, and you're going to exit clean, leaving not only yourself but the other person who's listening to you in a connected and a respectful space.
Perfect. That was a wonderful summary, a great reiteration, and you nailed it.
It's just like it landed so beautifully for me as you were saying it and bringing it systematically home. It's like, wow, it just really was beautiful. I always learn from you. There hasn't been a moment that I've ever seen you, whether in conferences or in my own show, that I haven't learned. So I thank you. I thank you for your friendship. I thank you for giving me your time. I know you're busy. I look at your website, by the way. Please go to jeffzeig.com and look at everything that he's doing and learn from him and all the workshops that he has and the books that he has on his website and Amazon.com. And I want to thank you for giving me this time, and hopefully, see you soon, and you're going to join me back on our show.
That will be a blessing. You're a blessing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for being with us another week. And until next week, create a wonderful day, week, time, and a world. Good night.